Insipid bog falls, surrounded by dirt and grime in a filthy cavern constructed of ancient rock and bone. The stalactites fall from the ceiling after hanging for an impossible amount of time. Higher beings, these words are for you alone. Your great strength marks you amongst us. Focus your soul, and you shall achieve feats of which others can only dream. The bug is no mere critter. It is a vessel for something more, to absorb and take in the strength of those around it, a higher being. In daylight, its presence illuminates the environment around it with a penetrating shadow. Those who are classified as a higher being have mastery over their realm. In the case of the vessel, it is the mastery of light and dark. Every single living being has soul contained within them, their life energy. Focus. Concentrate. And gather the soul of the living, and you shall bring it into your own domain.
Ho there, traveler. I'm afraid there's only me left to offer welcome. Our town's fallen quiet, you see. The other residents, they've all disappeared, headed down that well, one by one, into the caverns below. Used to be there was a great kingdom beneath our town. It's long fell to ruin, yet it still draws folks into its depths. Wealth, glory, enlightenment, that darkness seems to promise all things. I'm sure you too seek your dreams down there. Well, watch out. It's a sickly air that fills the place. Creatures turn mad and travelers are robbed of their memories. Perhaps dreams aren't such great things after all.
Some flaccid fellow talks about a kingdom that once was, no longer is. Tales of something far beyond his years, slowly turning to dust. A nice fellow, to be sure, although old. Elderbug offers the vessel advice and guidance every so often, and is quite polite about it too. Good guy. Taking the plunge below, the vessel enters a rather unassuming cavern. The forgotten Crossroads. Proves the Elderbug right, too. Wherever this may be, it's long fell to ruin. There's architecture amiss. Someone has built it, but there's no one left to use it. Signs and poles litter the floor, as well as what seems to be carts that will be used by merchants or travelling salesmen. ornate gates designed with utmost intricacy, invincible walls and roads that could be challenged by only the best architects. This, by all intents and purposes, was a wonderful kingdom at one point, or another. Never mind today. The vessel's only weapon is a nail that it bears, its only hope of defending itself. Like a sword to a knight, it's a nail to a vessel, a fine piece of articulated metal. The bugs of the Crossroads attack the vessel as soon as they see it. Their attacks don't seem coordinated or planned, but rather primal, less like that of a fighter, and more like that of an animal. Their eyes contain a filthy infernal orange glow, and they spew out intoxicating gas when hit or slaughtered. They're not themselves, they're infected with something or someone. The orange glow of this infection makes for an uncomfortable and disgusting contrast against the purple nature of the Crossroads. The two concepts of the infection and the kingdom clash in pretty much every way imaginable. Two ancient forces colliding into contact. However, it seems that the infection has been here for at least a considerable amount of time before the vessel got here. Not forever, but at least long enough for chaos and sword to spread. Geo. It is the irreplaceable, everlasting currency of Hallownest's economy. What's special about Geo is that it is made from ancient shells of different types of species of bug which have since fossilized. Irreplaceable, cannot be counterfeited. These little pieces of shell are everywhere. However, the way in which it forms means that certain areas are naturally going to have more of it. More dangerous areas which house more creatures, and therefore more dead creatures, and therefore more fossilized shell, tend to have more Geo. The areas which have plenty of dead bugs lead to an effect in which the ones who do survive are the ones that are to be feared. Survival of the fittest. The vessel journey has led it to a false knight, a legendary knight of great renown. The monstrous beast swings his mighty mace in the night over and over again, and with a shattering thud, pieces of rock and rubble crumble from the ceiling, falling onto them both. The knight's massive leaps result in great thunder over the ground, when his body comes crashing back down through the air. The vessel barely survives and wildly swings at the knight with a snail. After enough slashing, the false knight falls over and reveals itself. Some gross maggot is piloting the suit. The vessel slays the false knight, and upon dying, the maggot spews out a toxic array of an infectious cloud. The knight was a complete facade in every sense imaginable. His movement patterns were less like that of a seemingly seasoned fighter, and more like that of a child throwing a tantrum. Every swing was filled with passion and emotion, but he lacked the skill and experience necessary in order to make it actually threatening. Even the weapon that he used isn't what it seems. The blunt end of his mace was a living, breathing bug. After some time, it will get up on its own and simply walk away. The suit of armor clearly wasn't designed for a little maggot. It seems as though he stole it from someone else. Upon dying, an object can be extracted from the corpse of a maggot. A little stone object named the City Crest. A stone slab bearing the crest of the Hallownest capital city has an insert on the back that will fit into a slot. After the defeat of the false knight, the vessel's path was further opened up. Quite quickly, the forgotten Crossroads begin to transition into a hallway, skulls and masks. Ominous lanterns of unknown origin fill up said hallways. The skulls are hung up on poles and spikes, a warning to stay away.
Oh, what's that creeping out of the darkness? My, you're looking grim. A strange, empty face and a wicked-looking weapon. Something important has drawn you to Hallownest's corpse, but I won't ask what. Perhaps the reason you found me is because you need my help? Say no more, friend. I'm going to give you a little gift. A nasty little spell of my own creation. It's just perfect for a little one like you. Oh? You've awoken at last. I apologize. Perhaps I should have warned you about the power of that spell. I was watching over you while you slept, but I seem to have slipped away myself.
Some suspicious stranger bestows a gift upon the vessel, someone who knows their craft and wanted to extend a helping hand. Interestingly enough, The Snail Shaman referred to Hallownest not as a kingdom, but as a corpse. Perhaps that Elderbug really did mean what he said. The vengeful spirit, the collective zenful culmination of the history, knowledge, and expertise of the Snail Shaman race. Soul energy concentrated into a single deadly blast of matter. The spirit is ejected from the vessel's body at a ludicrous speed and destroys everything in its wake. Pure, insatiable, cannibalistic nature of using the power of soul in order to destroy living beings. The Snail Shamans seem to be a race of bugs blessed with the gift of soul. Their group as a whole seems to have some sort of obsession with the very concept itself. The Shamans are able to focus soul, similar to the vessel. The Shaman in the ancestral mound does not use it to regenerate his body from damage like the vessel, but instead uses it to summon in the vengeful spirit for the vessel, suggesting that they are able to create spells of their own, like a sculptor working with clay. They're intelligent creatures who seem to know full well what they're doing. Mastery over soul. When the Shaman speaks to the vessel, they speak of a manner which suggests that they've done some before of the same nature. Bugs in Hallownest live off of soul, which is the energy that powers their bodies. Soul, however, is not infinite. Each bug only has a certain amount that can be extracted by the vessel. Once killed, no more soul can be drawn. The corpse is lifeless and is therefore soulless. The vessel itself is only a small bug. It can only contain so much soul, even if it potentially had an untapped, unlimited supply of never-ending soul. Due to these factors, the vessel's access to soul is limited. It is literally physically unable to store enough soul to constantly be able to cast spells and regenerate. Because of this, in battle, the vessel switches back and forth between offensive and defensive strategy. One specific creature is blocking one of many paths. When the vessel tries to strike at it with a snail, the creature cowers and shields itself with its shell. The shell is impenetrable and is lowered in response to the vessel approaching the creature. The vessel, however, can use the gift of vengeful spirit in order to destroy it. It seemed to have been blocking off some sort of green, grassy area. The Greenpath is the mossy planted overgrowth, a delicate ecosystem with a mix of both plant life and animal life. Some of the creatures are walking beasts that clearly count as animals, but possess defensive mechanisms found in plants, such as releasing a toxic gas which is able to damage the vessel. A few of these bugs, strangely enough, release said toxic gas after death, as a swan song of sorts, a punishment to whoever slayed them. The toxic gas found in these bugs seem to be of the same nature as of the infected bugs in the Forgotten Crossroads. They even have the same haunted orange glow in their eyes and seem to leak or spew out infected particles when attacked by the vessel. Likewise, to the Forgotten Crossroads creatures, the beasts in the Greenpath seem to be operating on primal urges, less like living beings and more like machines. They don't think so much as respond, reaction rather than action. The creatures don't release a gas in preparation to a predator's presence in order to ward it off. They instead release in response to them getting too close. Whatever these creatures are infected with, it's turning them into mindless husks, almost like their actual brains are asleep, dreaming. All things considered, Greenpath is likely a bit too humble of a name. The place is pretty much an underground jungle. It's as if the Greenpath itself has a consciousness, like how plant life is considered to be actual life rather than simply an object. Within the Greenpath, the vessel encounters a shadowy creature bathed in darkness, simply referred to as the Hunter. He does not kill for Geo or for respect from anyone else, but rather for himself. He hunts simply for the nature of the hunt. He gifts the vessel the Hunter's journal, detailing bugs that the vessel has encountered and slaughtered. The Hunter writes down his thoughts and feelings on the creature after each entry that the vessel creates. What essentially amounts to opinionated blurbs provide great insight on how the different species of Hallownest exist and interact. Who eats who, who's the predator, and who's the prey. The Hunter's own thoughts and opinions provide a fresh perspective and new info on certain creatures. Throughout the vessel's journey, the Hunter's journal will often be of great use, whilst attempting to decipher this kingdom and its origins.
Oh, hello there. Seems we both tread far from the path. I can hardly believe those dusty old highways led to such a lush and lively place. This building suggests some form of worship, though its idol has clearly been forgotten. Doubles equally well for a moment's respite. I saw a strange fellow out there. He seemed quite taken by the lake. I'd planned the chance to offer greetings, though figured I'd first tend to my nail on chance our meeting goes poorly.
The peaceful wanderer sits down as lonesome until being greeted by the vessel. He bears but a nail, a mask representing a great figure, and a thirst for knowledge. He's one of the few creatures within Hallownest who seems to have his head intact, both figuratively and literally, and not to have succumbed to the infection. The foul stench in the air is driving everyone crazy. He's not melancholic or miserable. He's actively optimistic. His high-pitched tone resembling fascination and interest is a contrast to gloomy moans of pain developed by the infected creatures. The wanderer, Quirrel, seems to have no memory of his time before Hallownest. He only came here recently because he was drawn by the mystery of the kingdom. A recollection, a haze. It had to be explored. A blank canvas from which he shall paint his own future. Hallownest is a kingdom of vast, intense diversity and beauty. Of course, Quirrel will wish to witness everything that it has to offer. Quirrel is actually very friendly, and apart from him menacingly sharpening his blade, he's also fairly approachable and level-headed. He knows full well that things won't always go his way, and that he needs to prepare himself for unforeseen consequences. He's friendly, but capable. He refuses to just simply lay there and allow someone to kill him. Survival is top priority. If the meeting goes wrong and he has to make the choice between his life or someone else's, he'll choose his every time. Most of the creatures in Hallownest are infected. Are they even really alive anymore? Even if Quirrel wants to let them live, will there be anything to gain from doing so? The strange fellow is overlooking the lake of Un. Un was once a great, although now forgotten, higher being. Un's domain remains unreachable as the entire lake is acidic and the vessel has no means of crossing the lake. For now. Some strange bug has been following the vessel. She possesses 2 long horns and keeps Snail far more deadly than the vessel's. The vessel keeps repeatedly spotting her in Greenpath, but every time it gets close to her, she runs off. Both of them eventually end up confronting each other.
Come no closer, ghost. I've seen you creeping through the undergrowth, stalking me. This old kingdom. A terrible thing awakens. I can smell it in the air. I know what you are. I know what you'd try to do. I can't allow it.
With a quick dash and a hop, Hornet takes to action. She strikes at the vessel, blow after blow, slash after slash. Hornet is able to materialize some form of string or weave. She's clearly a trained fighter. Great care and confidence are displayed in the way that she positions her nail. She's not infected like the other bugs of Greenpath, which is visible in not just her eyes, but also in the way she fights. Hornet doesn't operate irrationally or on primal instincts. She also seems to be acutely aware of the vessel's timing and positioning, as well as her own. The vessel, however, defeats her in the end. The vessel loots some sort of cloak off of the dead body of a nearby bug, who looks strangely similar to the vessel. Would seek to break the seals. They cannot be undone. They must be undone. Let us sleep, little shadow. Return to your darkness. Allow us our peace. Something has awakened. Something that has been slumbering for God knows how long. Something that rests deeper in the kingdom. The cloak that the vessel took from the corpse is blessed with the ability to be able to quickly dash, propelling itself forward. This can be done either on the ground or in the air. The moth-wing cloak alone extends the possibilities of what the vessel is capable of dramatically. Using the cloak, the vessel is able to reach new parts of not just the Greenpath, but Hallownest in general. The Fog Canyon is an area which connects to the Greenpath. It is a major crossroads section in Hallownest, much like the Forgotten Crossroads, allowing passage to and from a number of different areas. The Fog Canyon itself, however, is not a pleasant place by any means. The creatures that live here are seemingly harmless, and although passive, they can cause the vessel a great deal of trouble. For one, the larger jellyfish that can seemingly swim in the air don't go out of their way to attack the vessel, but they do contain some concentrated core within them. When attacked, the outer shell of the jellyfish is destroyed and the core seeks the target and attempts to destroy it. When contact is made, a devastating explosion is created, causing massive damage. These are the mature, grown versions of the otherwise smaller, frail jellyfish. The jellyfish, or whatever they should be called, are such an alien concept that even the hunter, who presumably has seen, encountered and slaughtered countless bugs, still has no idea what they are. They exist in an ethereal, alien state where their true nature is mysterious and unusual. The Fog Canyon is, by nature, deceptive. Even though the vessel might initially perceive it to be a nice and pleasant place, with the calming sounds and all the bubbles and whatnot, it is actually the complete opposite. Parts of the canyon are drenched with deadly acids, other parts have spiky thorns growing out of them, and the rest of the area has electric loom flies that will generate bursts of electric discharge. Even though the jellyfish are seemingly passive, it is all too easy for the vessel to accidentally swing at one and have to suffer the consequences. Connected right next to the Fog Canyon is a fungal waste, a disease kingdom of fungi and bacteria. The entire area is mushrooms sprouting from top to bottom. Some of the bugs have mushrooms growing from their heads. There's inflated mushrooms that the vessel can strike at in order to bounce off them way up high. There's living, breathing mushroom people that release fungal gas. If the Forgotten Crossroads have stalactites and stalagmites, then the fungal waste equivalent would be ceiling mushrooms and floor mushrooms. Deep within the fungal waste lays a mantis village, inhabited by a tribe of mighty warriors. Like Hornet, they are trained fighters and have not been cursed with infection. Countless years of honing their skills and passing down their culture and tradition through generations has caused them to develop an impenetrable mental fortitude. The infection that festers amongst the denizens of the Forgotten Crossroads and the Greenpath is quite literally unable to invade the minds of the Mantis tribe unless they choose to accept it. Each member of the Mantis tribe is fierce to the very bone, no mercy. They attack the vessel on sight out of pure dedication for protecting their home. No one gets in, simple as. Anyone who tries to enter is cut down on sight. Within the Mantis village, the vessel has acquired the Mantis Claw, a claw of a member of the Mantis species which allows the vessel to cling onto walls in order to not only slide down them much more slowly, safely and consistently, but also be able to essentially climb vertical surfaces. The architecture in the Mantis village was clearly made to represent the warriors themselves. They are a proud race. As a result, they hang up skulls of dead bugs as a display of force and representation of their strength. Each and every slab that was laid down in order to construct these buildings was done with the utmost pride and intent. The undisputed leaders of the Mantis tribe are the Mantis Lords. The Lords are three sisters who have mastered the art of combat together and watch over their warriors. Unlike the other members of the Mantis tribe, they do not attack the vessel on sight. Strangely enough, there also seems to be a fourth, broken throne off to the right which lays in rubble, destroyed. There seems to have been a fourth Mantis Lord at some point, and yet, for one reason or another, they did not stand shoulder to shoulder alongside their siblings. Maybe a falling out. Maybe they weren't up to par with the rest. The vessel challenges the Lords, and yet only a single one leaves her throne. She certainly seems to possess a high level of skill over her nail, but so does the vessel. Her and the vessel battle to see which one of them falls first. The vessel strikes, until eventually the Lord falls. In response to the first sister getting injured and failing to defeat the vessel, the other two take her place instead. The connection between siblings compels them as they move in perfect synchronicity with one another. Their patterns often overlap, causing the vessel to need to rethink its strategy. The battle against lords feels much less like a fight and more like art, the art of combat. The three forces get continuously more tired as the battle goes on. The two sisters in the vessel fight, but eventually the vessel defeats both the sisters. The lords pay their respect to the vessel. The concept of respect is deeply embedded within the tribe. Because the vessel bested them in combat, the lords now respect it. After making its way back through the village, the warriors now also bow in respect. They become passive in its presence. Nothing less would be sufficient. Exiting the Mantis village and going back to outer reaches of the fungal waste, the vessel spots a colossal sign bearing the symbol of a crown and the symbol in the shape of the crest that the false knight dropped earlier. Proceeding onward, another sign lays dormant. Here ends the pilgrim's way. Hallownest's heart lays open before you. Proceed onward to share in its glory. The path onward is a trial that can only be passed by the worthy. With a mix of using the Morphine Cloak to dash and the Mantis Claw to jump from wall to wall, the vessel reaches the other end of the corridor. The other end, for whatever reason, holds a statue of the false knight. Or, rather, a statue of whoever that little white maggot stole the armor from. Drenched in the blue and purple hues of the rain, the City of Tears is stuck in a permanent, everlasting state of torrential downpour. Slightly, that the City of Tears isn't actually the real name of the city, as no one knows how long the rain has been falling for, with the design clearly not being accommodated to suit it, and also likely being caused by an outside source. Entire structures have seemingly been flooded, with only the highest and tallest portions of them remaining. Quirrel's travels continue from the next stopping point.
The capital lies before us, my friend. What a somber place it seems, and one that holds the answers to many a mystery. I too have felt the pull of this place, though now I sit before it, I find myself hesitant to descend. Is it fear, I wonder, or something else that holds me back? The city looks to be built into an enormous cavern, and the rain pours down from cracks in the stone above. There must be a lot of water up there somewhere. I suppose if the cave roof stayed strong this long, it should hold for us. Before I leave this kingdom, I'd like to see where all that water comes from. What a sight it must be.
Great city stuck in eternity behind a great lock. None shall enter, none shall leave.
Again we meet, little ghost. I'm normally quite perceptive. You, I underestimated, though I've since guessed the truth. You've seen beyond this kingdom's bounds. Yours is resilience born of two voids. It's no surprise, then, you've managed to reach the heart of this world. In so doing, you shall know the sacrifice that keeps it standing. If, knowing that truth, you'd still attempt to roll in Hallownest's perpetuation, Seek the grave in ash, and the mark it would grant to one like you.
Memorial to the Hollow Knight. The black vault far above, through its sacrifice, Hallownest lasts eternal. The vessel has no memory of its past. It is completely unaware of what it is, although it seems to be of the same type of creation as the bug that held the Mothwing Cloak and the legendary Hollow Knight. They seem to have the same features between them, with slight variations within their features. A jet black body, a cloak, and a white shell for a head with varying shape, size, and number of horns. The Hollow Knight, however, seems to be a vessel that has reached full maturity, as it stands much taller. Within the foregoing Crossroads rests the Black Egg Temple, within which rests the Hollow Knight. Upon the temple are 3 faces, each representing one of the 3 statues stood next to the Hollow Knight. The memorial merely mentions a form of sacrifice. Through some method or action, the lives of the Hollow Knight and 3 other figures were given up for the sake of the kingdom. An eternity amiss. What is the cost for an eternity of life? The Hollow Knight was sacrificed to the temple and is held captive there. The 3 other figures gave up their lives in order to ensure that the knight would remain sealed within the temple. Within the City of Tears hides the forbidden Soul Sanctum, the holding house of the experiments overseen by a being only known as the Soul Master. These disgusting experiments were implemented with the aim of using soul in order to ascend to a higher form, perhaps to that of one of a higher being. He who controls his own soul will control reality itself. Through ascension, Hallownest will be saved from that filthy orange pest. Their minds will become impenetrable and the citizens will become eternal. Record Abba. The mind still limits us so. How to break past its constraints, to attain a pure focus, isn't even possible. Record Sender. Spare thought for those consumed. Through their grace we are evolved. No plague of mind shall overcome us now. The Soul Sanctum holds some sort of experiments in relation to soul. Control over soul means control over existence. The one who masters soul is the one who masters the very concept of life itself. Because soul is inherently linked to life, it allows for the power of creation. The records around the Soul Sanctum suggest that the experiments in regards to soul were somehow supposed to ascend the bugs of Hallownest. However, it came at a great cost. The soul experiments were supposed to be able to prevent some kind of plague of mind. The infection, it's everywhere. This whole city is full of infected bugs, just like the Greenpath and the Forgotten Crossroads. Soul could be used to fight against it. Contain it, seal the putrid thing away. The remains of the experiments speak more than words themselves could ever hope to muster. The entirety of the Soul Sanctum is filled with experiments, and the bugs who created said experiments. Failures result in the creation of freaks, complete, or rather incomplete, abominations. The soul experiments backfired, and they lost themselves. Bugs were sacrificed for the sake of a greater cause, hoping to be able to save the kingdom. The infection had already started to spread amongst the citizens. No one knew how to defeat an enemy which had no physical form. It would quietly travel through their minds and infect them when no one's looking. By the time it became apparent, it was already too late. The hands of the king were forced to act. The great, undisputed ruler of Hallownest, the Pale King. The Pale King allowed the Soul Master to conduct his experiments. The king willingly ignored the horrible crimes being committed right beneath the noses of the people. The Soul Master was the ultimate supervisor of the soul experiments. The Pale King is the undisputed ruler of Hallownest, a higher being. When it comes to the importance of the greater masses, no cost is too great. The health and safety of the largest and most important number of people is top priority. If a few have to be sacrificed for the longevity of the future, so be it. As long as the future generations remain, no cost too great. When the infection first started appearing, the Pale King ordered for the city to be locked down, no one in or out. The Pale King's great rule is supposedly unstoppable. word unquestioned, action paramount. He had raised his hand, and in one swift motion, the madhouse of horrors had been allowed to exist. The Soul Sanctum is one of the most despicable creations the Hallowness had managed to produce. Countless gone, countless more will be, all in the name of research. The vessel slowly approaches the chamber of the Soul Master. The Soul Master. He went mad with the power of the infection long ago. When the soul experiments failed, it was the next best thing. An enemy who is able to use both, however, is deadly. The Soul Master is so far gone that his eyes have been completely and utterly bathed in a deep, filthy orange, like grime on the street. The Soul Master uses the concentrated power of soul in order to conjure spells, as well as using the infection in order to spew out the wild thing at the vessel. He slams his body with the fullest magnitude right at the ground, like an earthquake. The Soul Master used a fake-out maneuver in order to slam himself and the vessel into the basement in which the failed experiments lay. The lower-level fuckhead. In a desperate attempt to win, the Soul Master starts slamming himself against the ground over and over again. The Soul Master's corpse released the last remaining shred of soul that it contained, taking the form of the Desolate Dive spell. After being blessed with the gift of Desolate Dive, the vessel is able to focus soul energy in order to strike the ground and create an earth-shattering shockwave, like how the Soul Master is doing during his last stand. The Soul Master was trying to find a way to fight back against the infection. The power of soul could be extracted and used to attain that which could only be dreamt. Power beyond what these bugs could possibly imagine. Immortality, the power to become eternal. Yet the infection was far too alluring. In his greatest moment of weakness, when the soul experiments didn't work, the Soul Master willingly embraced the infection. Its promises of strength and immortality was simply too much to be able to ignore for him. The area within which the vessel bows the Soul Master lay countless corpses as a result of the soul experiments. All these victims were extracted of their soul energy in order to power the sick, twisted dreams of the Soul Master. The vessel slowly makes its way back up. The basement is littered with the freakish mutants spawned from the experiments. Countless of them, an ocean. Now it's time to leave this forsaken city. Deep within the Fog Canyon rests the overgrown mound, similar to the area in which the vengeful spirit was consumed by the vessel. Within it is the dead, abandoned, overgrown corpse of a Snail Shaman. The corpse is gigantic and has been laying there for a long time, judging by the moss which has consumed it. From the corpse is a spell. The vessel has consumed the gift of the howling wraiths. If the vengeful spirit is conjured horizontally on either side, and the Desolate Dive is conjured downwards, then the howling wraiths fill in the gap by allowing the vessel to conjure a devastating upward spell which devours anything it touches. The vessel has mastered the ability of using soul in order to conjure spells in every direction. In the forgotten Crossroads lays an opening, some sort of cave. A cave which has had a mine built into it for the purpose of extracting the crystals which grow abundantly all over the walls. Some of the floor within the mine is crumbling away in rubble. It is weak, and the ground will soon be dust. The Crystal Peak, the home of precious crystals. It is growing crystals in every crevice of every corner. The entire area was turned into an excavation project purely meant for the extraction of these crystals. Their value cannot be understated. Their beauty is unmatched and their worth is unsurpassed. The infection has released a primal urge within the crew. They've returned back to their most raw, primal form, what they did in life. In this case, it was their profession, mining. The hypnotizing sound of pickaxes smashing against the ground and shattering crystals over and over again echo throughout the entire mine. One part of the Crystal Peak holds a borderline pitch black hole which is designed to ward off anyone looking to pass through. Beyond the exit is an impassable gap of the same architecture within the mounds that the Snail Shamans occupied. The fall led to a secluded, almost forgotten section of Hallownest, the resting grounds. To protect the vessel, the dreamers lay sleeping. Monomon, the teacher, in her archive surrounded by fog and mist. Lurian, the watcher, in his spire looking over the city. Hera the beast, in her den amidst the deep darkness beyond the kingdom. Through their devotion, Hallownest lasts eternal. The free behemoths lay dormant, they shelter it, seek them out, slay them. The dreamers, the free, eternal, everlasting, and ever-sleeping protectors of Hallownest, the free figures that are depicted standing alongside the Hollow Knight statue. Lurian the Watcher, Monomon the Teacher, and Hera the Beast, each of them represented by their own unique mask. They confronted the vessel earlier in the Greenpath, but were unable to do anything to stop it. Now, after the vessel has entered the world of dreams, they attempted to trap it there forever. Through escaping the realm of dreams, the vessel has acquired the dream nail. Other than the realm of reality exists another realm, the realm of dreams, where higher beings and powerful warriors exist. Laws of existence are askew, physics are different. Powerful, very powerful higher beings rest there. The realm of dreams is where the dreamers have been placed. Lurian, who watches over the city, rests at the very highest point of it, way up high in the Watcher's Spire. Monomon, known for her wisdom, rests deep in the Fog Canyon, protected by her guardians. Hera, a behemoth of birth, rests within the Deep Nest, protected by her countless, monstrous children. The true nature of Water Who has been contained within the Hollow Knight is unknown, but Hornet seemed to suggest that the vessel needs to take drastic action in regards to it. As long as the dreams remain, so do the doors to the Black Egg Temple, for it is impenetrable. That is the sacrifice of the dreamers. Protect the Hollow Knight. No one in or out of the temple. Through doing so, the Hollow Knight exists indefinitely, and so will Hallownest. The Hollow Knight hosts the source of the infection. The Knight did not give up its life, but worse, it gave up its mind. Through making the ultimate sacrifice, the King's creation, Hallownest, shall last eternal. No entity shall consume it now. By sealing them for the use of the dream realm, they have become inaccessible. Their seals impenetrable, their minds invincible. An apparition appeared to the vessel within the dream world in the form of a moth and led it to the dream nail. The very same moth rescued the vessel from that realm and pulled it back into reality. The seer is part of an ancient tribe of moths, one of the last remaining members of her species. The vessel leaves the resting grounds to re-enter the Crystal Peak. It delves deeper and deeper within the ravenous cavern, Those who enter do not come back. Whether it be the crystals or the infection, both have driven these little creatures mad. Once there was a great colony, now they've been turned into mindless slaves, husks, well and truly lost. The floors and walls of this cave crumbling away with time. The weathering on the fragile rock has only gotten more and more intense. The cave is like its own little ecosystem, and with that ecosystem, many were lost in the sake of finding more precious crystals. The vessel has been blessed with the gift of the crystal heart. The crystal heart allows the vessel to charge the power of the crystals found within the crystal peak in order to propel itself forward through the air. The crystal dash allows the vessel to maintain height at massive speed and velocity, meaning that large gaps can now be crossed with ease. Returning to a Greenpath, the vessel is able to use the crystal heart in order to cross the acidic lake. Beyond the lake, there is an old underground area where great power once lay. A sleeping behemoth that once held immeasurable power, now forgotten. Barren rocky walls of the cavern are covered with coral, the mysterious green mist. Her energy is present. Un is close. Who knows what rage this beast might hold for a creature as small as the vessel. In the end, Un is a higher being who cares and loves for her children deeply. She's the creator of the life seen within the Greenpath. Even though her strength has faded, her love has not. She wishes no harm and no misery, only for the life that she created to be able to prosper peacefully in their own little corner in Hollow Nest. The crystal heart can also be used to cross the gap in the crystal peak in order to go through a tucked off corner of the cavern in order to discover Snail Shaman encased in crystal. The vessel has been cursed with the gift of the descending dark, a much more potent and devastating variety of the Desolate Dive spell. Instead of the white dazzling soul, whenever the vessel uses the descending dark, they are cloaked in a deep and brooding black. Within the City of Tears, a guarded room can be accessed in which the vessel will have to battle a creature. After doing so, yet another Snail Shaman can be discovered. The vessel has been cursed with the gift of the soul shade. The vengeful spirit is no more. It has been consumed by an everlasting darkness. Travelling down the city is an ominous little sewer entrance which can be easily unlocked. It's not grandiose, it's not cinematic, and it's certainly not pretty. The denizens of this shithole seem to have been birthed through either some sort of sewage bacteria or an infernal beast. The royal waterways carry a disgusting aura. The waterways are filled with rubbish sent down from the City of Tears. Not only that, but a good bit of the city's water is flowing downwards right into here, the resulting moist environment creating the perfect breeding ground for awful abominations. Most of the freaks that litter the waterways are a type of worm, maybe larvae? Flukes. Fucking disgusting, gross. These incessant mutators know no bounds and have been allowed to multiply by the dozen. The city's junk and whatever else they felt like tossing down here can be observed throughout a lot of the waterways. The entirety of the royal waterways is pretty much just a gigantic dumping ground. Hallways of rubbish eventually turn into hallways of literal shit with some sort of arena nearby. The dung defender rises to the occasion. The brave beetle quickly lops up piles of dung and throws at the vessel. He's seemingly a great knight, but whatever battles he fought must have been long ago, as he fights more like a demented old man. Even though the dung defender was unimpressive, it was not always this way. He used to be a great knight, warriors of Hallownest. The 5 great knights were once 5 respected figures who gave up their life to the king and the kingdom, the ultimate protectors of Hallownest. They were all respected in their own right, the first of which, Hegemol, was known for his seemingly limitless strength and his soft-spoken nature. The statue right outside the entrance to the city of Tears was built in his mighty likeness. The second of the 5 knights, Drea, is dedicated to eternally standing post outside the domain of the White Lady, the Queen of Hallownest, tucked far away in the other end of the world. Supposedly, she is to protect the White Lady for the rest of time. The third of the 5 knights, Zemmer, is shrouded in mystery, but in the resting grounds she stays, now known as a Grey Mourner. Seemingly having suffered a great loss of some kind, she spends her days weeping. The fourth of the 5 knights, Isma, is described as being warm and loving. She has long since passed, but her body is embedded within a quiet little spot, Isma's grove, a grove of acid, wines, and serenity. After being blessed with the gift of Isma's tear, the vessel is able to carelessly dive into pools of otherwise deadly acid. The sheer power contained within but a single drop of one Isma's tears is enough to protect the vessel from such a foul and deadly thing. A single drop contains a representation of all the love, warmth, and kindness that she had for others, something that would not go unnoticed by everyone else, especially by the 5th knight, whom she had a unique relationship with. The 5th and final knight was Ogrim, the White Defender. He is the most passionate and loyal of the 5 knights. He breathed the spirit of life into his fellow knights. Together, the 5 conquered Hallownest's grey foes and fought what many assumed to be impossible battles. They were led by the Pale King himself and swore themselves to eternally serve him and the kingdom. No matter what, no matter when, they would still be here, serving and protecting. The haunted, forbidden depths of Hallownest lay claim to the ancient basin. The filthy forbidden depths of the kingdom, which is plagued with some kind of dark material. The entire area is covered and filled with the dark shadowy stuff. The basin seems to almost defy the logic of the world entirely. Black tendrils sprout from the ceiling, and vines hang loose within the ground. The fossilized shell of ancient bugs are seen as well, some of which can actually be used to extract geo from. The rock bears no king, for it refuses to listen to a ruler. The stone that makes up the ground is eternal, and it shall be respected. Despite that, architecture synonymous with the Pale King has already been built. Not recently either. It's been here for a good bit now. Even then, the infections reached the ancient basin as well. The basin and the infection hold a disturbing contrast against each other. 2 forces constantly in argument with each other. The dark muted nature of the basin is drowned out as it is tortured by the blinding bright light of the infection vines which sprout everywhere. Off to the left of the ancient basin is an endless corridor with terrible spikes and horrid teeth covering both the floor and the ceiling. The vessel can cross through the use of the crystal heart. However, the fact that this is the only way to cross the gap means that very few creatures even have the ability to reach this area. It's unknown whether or not this design was intentional, or if there was something there beforehand that just happened to erode and wither away over time. In this case, it's possible that not only the king, but also the ground itself did not want anyone treading upon these accursed rocks. Some sort of arena with infection particles seeping from everywhere, with a corpse resting off to the side. The broken vessel leaps and slashes through the air. The infection has reanimated something that looks very similar to the vessel. No will to think, the body runs purely off of parasitical power. raw, primal power. The broken vessel is not thinking about battle tactics or strategy. It's not even trying to necessarily kill the vessel. Its behavior is more like that of prey fighting for its life. Poor little bugs desperate last stand. I say that sometimes the muscles and freshly killed meat from a hunt can still contract. The animal is no longer actually alive, but the nerve endings are still able to move if activated by outside forces. The broken vessel's corpse lay there out in the open. In its last moments, it reached out for the vessel, as if asking for help. The host body literally, physically, could not take it anymore, and the parasite within it disintegrated. The creature itself had no will, not hollow, but still long dead. The infection itself was desperate to stop the vessel from continuing, no matter the cost. Within the royal statue, in the shape of a regal beetle, hides away a brightly force. The gift of the monarch wings allows the vessel to elegantly propel itself through the air. The king's bird flying through the sky, the wings themselves even leave a beautiful trail of feathers behind them, a blinding pale light synonymous with the king. Poison the masses, poison for the masses. The seeper seeps, the infection spreads. The infection has completely, utterly seeped into and overtaken the former forgotten Crossroads. From the bottom of the world, the infection has risen all the way up to the top of the Crossroads. So much so that infection particles can even be seen escaping from the Crossroads into Dirtmouth. An impossible amount of infection particles are seeping from the Black Egg Temple. Bugs before, slaves now. They succumbed. Their minds gone, their bodies distorted. Some of the bugs will run directly at the vessel, and then their bodies will explode, hoping that the following fallout will be enough to hurt or maybe even kill it. They have no sense of self-preservation anymore. They simply follow the orders given directly to them by the infection. The infection has actually manifested so overwhelmingly that parts of the Crossroads have been permanently blocked off. It has quite literally seeped into the cracks and closed it off. The previously threatening guards, which were massive beasts that wielded a club, were too weak and had too little potential. They were absorbed into it and killed. That putrid stench from the Black Egg Temple is getting more and more intense. Sooner or later, something is going to be released. The Hollow Knight has become restless with age. The force within him is getting stronger, more refined. The vengeance within it is begging to be released. It can't be allowed. It won't be allowed. Those three figures on the temple. It's necessary. It must be done. The three behemoths that lay dormant. They shelter it. Seek them out and slay them.
Nothing left. Just only we.
The room is filled with corpses of what remains of what used to be Lurian's gods, the Watcher Knights, protectors of the first dreamer, behemoths of pure strength, standing guard until their very last breath. Their dedication to protecting Lurian, and therefore Hallownest, is passionate and endless. They died while standing guard. Their corpses have clearly been laid here for a long time, considering there's a concentrated clump of infection right at the ceiling. The infection, through a will of its own, has infected the corpse of one of the Watcher Knights and reanimated the dead body. Dead man walking. Through no will of its own, it's brought back to its prime state before it died, the complete and utter perfection of its fighting abilities. Another one reanimated, more and more get brought back to life. This bloody clash of the titans is a fight against the light. soul against infection. The gang of them throw everything they have against the vessel. With their beetle nature, they possess immense strength, being able to swing their giant nails with just one hand. An entire legion of the city's most dedicated protectors, reduced to barely even a fraction of their original strength in numbers, and yet, even then, they are not to be underestimated. One by one, the last of their numbers slowly dwindle, till the very last one is brought down. Utter behemoths bested by a tiny bug with a nail. They had no regard for themselves, no self-preservation whatsoever. Either they would protect Lurien internally, or they would die trying. The elevator ride to where Lurien, the first of the dreamers, rests, holds one of the most serene and beautiful scenes in the entire city. On the outside of the window, the city itself can be seen, whilst rain droplets assault the window pane. Inside, statues depicting Lurien stand proud. He dedicated his life to not just the city, but to the king and the kingdom of Hallownest itself. His work was to constantly monitor the city and keep his citizens safe. He felt personally responsible for every single one. That much is shown through his own personal telescope he had in his room, so he could check in on the city constantly. The nature of a dreamer is to be truly selfless, to ignore one's own safety in order to ensure the safety of others. The vessel invaded the world of Lurien's mind with the dream nail. Within it, he shows no resistance to what is about to happen. He already knows full well what's going to happen. He does not try to attack the vessel in any way, he just accepts it. With the first dreamer wiped from reality, the first of the three bonds has been broken. The second of the three, Monomon, is kept within her own archive deep in the Fog Canyon.
Doesn't this kingdom just abound with surprises? A building atop an acid lake. Despite the sight, I can't help but feel familiarity? Something stirs in my mind, though I can't yet tell what. I'd thought it my lust for discovery that led me here, but now there seems something else. This building beckons me.
The teacher's archives. Her boundless intellect charged the masses with knowledge. Quirrel's journey has led him here to this point. At first it seemed by his own accord, but now it seems that he was physically drawn by a supernatural force. Something that cannot be understood, only observed. Approaching Monomon's chamber, the vessel finds itself within a giant pit with a swarm of jellyfish-like creatures in the background, with strange test tubes and forbidden texts written across them. Most likely, Monomon's findings. The bottom of the pit is completely filled with deadly acid. Monomon's guardian, Umu, has risen out of the acid. This gigantic beast is the most powerful of jellyfish creatures and is completely invulnerable. The vessel's attacks do not affect it whatsoever. The vessel hopelessly avoids the being whilst it sends out hordes of electric attacks, when suddenly Quirrel runs in and strikes the creature, weakening its protective shell. Quirrel and the vessel fight alongside each other as one takes down the defenses and the other goes on the offensive. Through their combined effort, they quickly slay the beast. Continuing on past the chamber, the vessel reaches a strange glowing capsule with something swimming in it. Mon rests peacefully within the tank, satisfied, almost joyful. If this tiny creature can defeat her most trusted and strongest guardian, then it might just be worthy of being the one to dictate the kingdom's future. There she rests, an ocean of knowledge condensed into what is the equivalent of a drop. She has a strange connection with the creatures of the Fog Canyon, who roughly take the shape and figure of Mon herself. It's almost like she gave out tiny, molecular portions of her intelligence amongst the Fog Canyon creatures.
Did she call you too, then? I realize it's no coincidence we arrived together. Though much of my memory is blank, this place I recall. Within these chambers, the teacher sought to store the kingdom's knowledge, and at its core, she stored herself. To save Hallownest, the teacher willingly became a seal, but upon herself she enacted an additional protection. Though I cannot recall its happening, I played a part in that feat. She called me here now to reverse that protection. All in aid of you. Do not hesitate. The choice to reform was hers, not mine. She knows what you would do, and seems to welcome it. The madam's life is extinguished, and with it her seal breaks. It's a heavy thing you attempt, but I've seen your prowess up close, and she too believed you capable. Be on your journey then, and allow me rest a time. With the deed complete, I begin to feel my age.
After the vessel's encounter with Mon, Quirrel wishes for nothing more than a moment of peace. All this danger and excitement, he needs nothing more than just a bit of quiet. He travels to a far-off section near the resting grounds, a section of pure, complete serenity, the Blue Lake.
Again we meet, my short friend. Here at last, I feel peace. Twice I've seen this world, and though my service may have stripped the first experience from me, I'm thankful I could witness its beauty again. Hallownest is a vast and wondrous thing, but with as many wonders as it holds, I've seen none quite so intriguing as you. Haha, my flattery returns only silent stoicism. I like that. I like that very much. Incredible.
Quirrel lived to explore what his heart wished him to. He simply had no more left to explore, nothing worth exploring anyway. He witnessed the most wonderful of nature's impossibilities, and he got to witness what Hallownest has to offer to a bug like him. With Mon's fate sealed, he feels his purpose completed. There's nothing more for him here. This wasn't even Quirrel's first time in Hallownest. He worked closely with Mon as one of her most trusted figures. He then left Hallownest, only to come back, having forgotten everything beforehand. Hallownest seems to have a strong hold on one's memory. Those who leave the kingdom lose what they remember. In this case, it's no curse, it was a blessing. It is the cost of being able to experience the wonders that Hallownest has to offer. Quirrel was blessed with a clean slate and got to experience the beauties of this forgotten empire for the first time, twice. The Blue Lake, geographically speaking, is located directly above the City of Tears. It is the source of the constant, everlasting downpour of rain. The water seeps through the cracks in the rocks, falls down, ever so beautifully. After this encounter, Quirrel is never seen again. With the death of the other two, only one dreamer remains. Hera, the beast. Certain things need to be addressed first. The gender child. You need to seek her out in the underworld and use her guidance. The survival of the fittest means that only the strongest survive. Animals with only the most favorable traits. Size, strength, speed. At the final stage of evolution, only the strongest creatures remain. Plagued by the infection at the underworld, the Kingdom's Edge. The Kingdom's Edge is much more raw, much more primal than Love Hallownest. Not only has it been untouched by the King's hand, but there is also none of his architecture here. He placed them wherever he could, when possible, for the sake of convenience. As a result, the beasts in Kingdom's Edge are untamed. They've been allowed to run wild. Hallownest is old. Very, very old. But not quite ancient. In fact, it was around long before the king ever got here. Within the Kingdom's Edge is a grave in ash. Not the beginning of Hallownest as a whole, but it is the place where something else began.
So you'd pursue the deeper truth. It isn't one the weak could bear. Prove yourself ready to face it. I'll not hold back. My needle is lethal, and I'd feel no sadness in a weakling's demise. Show me you can accept this kingdom's past and claim responsibility for its future.
From her time in the Greenpath, Hornet has been closely following the vessel, observing.
So strong. The previous ruler is no more. The vessel has named itself king, and is to be recognized as such. Every head shall bow. Long ago, the body of Worm burrowed into this god-forsaken kingdom, and lay eternally to rest there as a corpse. The body of the ancient worm-like entity decayed, and from it hatched a fairly small creature. Worm reincarnated. The creature that hatched was the very king himself, the Pale King. From there, he ruled over Hallownest. Cities were constructed, stations pieced together, and an empire built. His city thrived, and his people were protected, safe and sound. He had achieved what he wanted, an empire free of sin, the ultimate collective culmination of all of his work. Everything went perfectly, until one day, some of the citizens started acting irrational. They seemed crazy, delirious. Whatever they were infected with couldn't be traced back. It affected them in their dreams. It had a sweet, alluring aura to it. It offered power beyond what your wildest dreams could create. And all you had to do to gain that power is to give up those very dreams themselves. Submit your mind. Become one. Normal times turned desperate, and desperate measures had to take place. The source of the infection was to be contained within by a single entity.
The infection could affect even those as strong as the wills, but the Pale King would graft himself a being with no will. A being with no will, who therefore cannot dream, and therefore cannot be held hostage by the infection. This being would have no limits, no boundaries. He would be a creation of the strongest forces that Hallownest can offer. The perfect Pale Warrior. What the king anticipated, or at least tried to anticipate, is the cost. No cost too great. Not when it comes to his kingdom. Hallownest must prevail, no matter what it takes. Higher beings, these words are for you alone. Our pure vessel has ascended. Beyond lies only the refuse and regret of its creation. We shall enter that place no longer. They kept this place away, far, far away, at the bottom of the world. The abyss. The word vessel keeps appearing. First a broken vessel, then some kind of pure vessel, as if there could be others apart from the vessel. Corpses, countless of them. Vessels, all of them vessels. The king's personal project was to create a perfect warrior, no matter what it took. No matter the cost. One who would follow orders without thinking. One who would not be affected by the infection. The invincible, the unstoppable, the hollow. Within the abyss are dead spirits. Shades who appear to attack the vessel. Or, rather, a vessel. The vessel is not the only vessel. It is one of countless. A little off to the far left of the abyss is a little room. The howling wraiths have been transformed, and the vessel has now been cursed with the gift of the Abyss Shriek. Every single one of the vessel's spells have now been distorted and twisted into a darker version. Void. The color white, more specifically white light, is often described as a combination of every color. It is every color present at once. The color black, however, can be described as the absence of color altogether. The two opposites in which they complete each other, life and death. Without the other, one would go rampant. Death, usually taking the form of a liquid state. There is a literal ocean of void located within the abyss. Even though void is death, it still has consciousness. When left in its raw state, it is unruly, like a wild animal, not unlike the infection. When unified, however, it seemingly gains intelligence. Even takes up a physical form of tendrils and attempts to wildly slash away at and kill the vessel. This is what the shades are comprised of. The shades are what the vessels are comprised of. The true state. The white shells of the vessels simply control and contain the void within. Each and every vessel was intended to be a perfect combination of soul and void. This would create the ultimate combination of the ultimate warrior of Hallownest. One who could tame not just life, but also death. The knight who would serve to protect his kingdom and seal the infection within. The Hollow Knight. The two forms of existence have war with each other. Within a single entity, perfect unity would be achieved. The two forms of intellect would cancel each other out, and all that would be left is a being with no mind to think and no will to break. It would simply follow commands. With no sentience to speak of, it would be immune to the infection, the cure to the curse. The infection can only initially infect those who are able to succumb to temptation in the dream realm. As long as you have temptations, you are able to succumb to them. The Hollow Knight, however, would have no such trait. It would be impenetrable to the infection. The creation of such a being came at a great cost. Countless souls were given away in search for the perfect one. the one soul who was well and truly hollow. It was a sacrifice the king was more than willing to make. For the kingdom, for the future of the kingdom. No cost too great. By nature, the two forces of soul and void oppose each other, and by nature, they counteract each other. As such, the Pale King ordered for a lighthouse to be built in the abyss next to the ocean of void in order to keep it tamed. However, like the infection, it has an alluring nature. The lighthouse keeper was consumed by the void's madness and turned off the beacon. The corpse of the keeper can be observed void seeping out of his eyes. The little bug was fully consumed. Void is an ancient entity, so ancient, in fact, that it predates the arrival of the worm, let alone Hallownest as a kingdom. An entire ancient civilization came and went before the king ever managed to get his hands on Hallownest. Certain ancient architecture throughout Hallownest is clearly of different design than what the king's builders have created. For example, there are multiple soul totems scattered throughout the kingdom which depict bugs that seemingly no longer exist, most likely completely extinct. The totems contain soul within, and the bugs depicted are usually worm-like. Many ominous statues were built. The void was like a deity to this civilization, something to be respected. Its boundless uses were to be praised. Oftentimes, it was controlled. After bathing itself in the void, the vessel has been cursed with the gift of the Shade Cloak. The Shade Cloak allows the vessel to cloak itself in the void for a brief period and face for objects as well as enemies. At the bottom of the abyss, an entrance has opened up. Not just the ground, but the walls and ceiling are made up of dead vessel shells. The abysmal catacombs, remnants of the aftermath of what it took to create the perfect hollow warrior, the corpses in their shades. No mind to think, no will to break, no voice to cry suffering, born of God and void. Only one dreamer remains, Hera, the beast. She rests within her home in the Deep Nest. The entrance to the Deep Nest can be accessed through the Mantis village, through which the Mantis lords respectfully let the vessel through. Just outside, you can see the hundreds of dead Deep Nest bugs which try to enter the village, only to be cut down by the tribe. The Deep Nest is the most brutish, unwelcoming area of Hallownest. Everything is alive and on the hunt. The Deep Nest houses, from what it seems, quite literally billions of creatures. Not all of them are massive beasts, but a lot are. There are so many bugs that the very floor itself is made up of countless tiny little critters clawing away desperately. There are so many bugs here, both dead and alive, that Geo has naturally formed at many corners, formed by the shell of creatures who died long ago. Even then, carrion litters the place. The way that the life in the deep nest has evolved is not only astounding, it's disgusting. After seemingly being killed, some bugs wait a moment before their bodies go through a metamorphosis of sorts. What's brilliant about this is that these look like the same bugs that the vessel originally encountered back in the forgotten Crossroads. Now, the infected Crossroads. That being said, these do actually seem to be the same bugs, only their bodies have been taken over and their motor systems are being controlled by a parasite. This type of parasite is extremely disturbing. After the metamorphosis, the original host's body is still somewhat preserved, only twisted and now lifeless, the corpse being puppeteered. The original intimidating orange glow signifying the presence of an infection is now gone, and all that remains is a pair of lifeless eyes. Approaching Hera's den, the vessel enters a welcoming room in which a bunch of strangers insist that it takes but a moment to sit down and rest. How nice of them. It's lovely to finally see a bit of hospitality around here. The den of the beast is filled with webs from top to bottom. Her little monsters that she spawned have made sure to cover every inch of every surface. The mother of these freaks rests high up in her den.
So you've slain the beast, and you head towards that fated goal. I'd not have obstructed this happening, but it caused me some pain to knowingly stand idle. What? You might think me stern, but I'm not completely cold. We do not choose our mothers or the circumstance into which we are born. Despite all the ills of the world, I'm thankful for the life she granted me. It's quite a debt I owed. Only in allowing her to pass and taking the burden of the future in her stead can I begin to repay it.
Originally, Hera had made a deal with the Pale King. Lorien and Monomon were to become dreamers, but a third would be necessary. For the king, for the kingdom, Hera was to become the third. However, she had made a stipulation. The Pale King was to gift her with a child. An alliance was to be made between Hera and the king, and a child was to be born. Whereas the vessels were genderless, the love child was the only one who had a gender. The gendered child. Hornet. Amongst the vessels, the Hornet stands as a sibling. Half-sibling, technically, as they share a father, but not mothers. With all the dreamers gone, all of the seals in the Black Egg Temple have been broken. The Hollow Knight remains. Now, the choice rests with the vessel. Let this kingdom slowly decay, or slay its sibling, then absorb the infection into itself, thus becoming the new host. Clearly, the current host was not the perfect one, not truly hollow. If it was, the infection would have stayed contained. The vessel is the god of light and dark. The Black Egg Temple holds a foreboding sense of serenity. One last moment of peace before the final encounter. The night is near. The vessel will have to go up against the chosen vessel. The entirety of the kingdom resting on his shoulders. Of course, it wanted to make the king proud. It was never truly hollow. Deep within, there was sentience, autonomy, determination. It wanted more than anything to save everyone, and it was that very paradoxical determination that doomed everyone and took away their only chance of stopping the cursed evil. The Hollow Knight was supposed to be the one true vessel, the pure vessel. They who did not feel, they who did not have a will to break, the entirety of the kingdom hinging on a single factor. Everything was risked. The plan failed. An eternity ago, the moth tribe that lived in Hallownest was plentiful, powerful. As the years went on and the Pale King enacted his will, constructing his empire, the strength of the moth tribe started to dwindle more and more, along with their numbers. Like how the Snail Shamans had mastery over soul, the moth tribe had mastery over dreams in the dream realm. Today, few of them remain. Barely. Much like other groups, the moth tribe had a deity, a higher being which exists within the dream realm. As the faith in their great leader started to dwindle more and more, the being became angrier and angrier, and so was her that took revenge against the Pale King and those who dared to forget about her. She saw a deadly plague across Hallownest. Through dreams, bugs would be infected. The God of Light, a pure white which shall blind the unworthy and provide guidance to the poor. She offered great power in exchange for their minds. They weren't given an option to decline. As more and more bugs succumbed, the more the Hallownest fell. The king was out of options. How are you supposed to defeat an enemy which only exists in dreams? The best solution, in his mind, was to trap the enemy within a faultless warrior. The warrior which could not succumb, for it had no dreams. The Hollow Knight. The Radiance. The Moth Tribe's great forgotten leader. Her power in her own domain is unmatched, a higher being with no equal. Her blinding orange light far surpasses that of the Pale King's. The defection was simply a physical manifestation of her own will. Two gods battle each other, and, no matter the outcome, both of them shall perish. The Radiance falls down and void tendrils reach up to grab her, yet she manages to escape. Climbing higher, the vessel batters her up in the skies. Her steel nails fly the vessel, her orange creations of doom are flung with death and destruction hidden within. The beast has fled, yet the vessel chases. It climbs higher and higher, weaving and dodging between bolts of light, the rays of destruction. As the vessel climbs, the void climbs with it. We're the Hollow Knight. The pure vessel failed. The vessel will do what was meant to be done an eternity ago.
And out of breath, your work is done. And your dream absolves. And your path dissolves. And your dream absolved. And your path dissolved.
No cost too great. No mind to think. No will to break. No voice to cry suffering. Born of God and void. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Bugs in Hallownest live off. Fuck off. Fucking smack the microphone back. Jesus. This whole city is full of infected blood. Blah, blah, blah.